Arab leader backs Iran's hardline war stance following talks with Putin, intensifying global concerns over Gaza conflict plans. The recent meeting between the Arab leader and Russian President Vladimir Putin appears to have been more than a diplomatic courtesy, instead emerging as a pivotal moment that could influence the trajectory of the already volatile Middle East. Reports from multiple diplomatic sources suggest that during their private discussions, the Arab leader expressed full alignment with Tehran's uncompromising approach to the Gaza crisis, framing it not just as a regional dispute but as a broader struggle against perceived Western interference and Israeli aggression. This endorsement from a high-profile Arab figure not only adds political weight to Iran's position, but also signals a potential shift in the balance of alliances across the region, as more actors consider aligning against US-backed initiatives in Gaza. The talks are believed to have delved into coordinated strategies that could involve diplomatic moves at the United Nations, as well as economic and military cooperation aimed at resisting pressure from Washington and its allies. The timing of this alignment is significant. With Gaza already in the throes of a humanitarian catastrophe and Israel intensifying its operations, the Arab leader's stance effectively adds legitimacy to Iran's calls for a united front against Israeli actions. This comes at a time when Western capitals are scrambling to push for ceasefire talks and humanitarian corridors. But Tehran's allies are signaling that they see the conflict as part of a larger geopolitical contest rather than a standalone crisis. The Arab leader's move also risks further fracturing the Arab world, as some governments remain wary of openly siding with Iran, preferring a more neutral or mediation-focused role. By openly backing Iran's hardline rhetoric, which includes threats of escalating military responses, the Arab leader may be positioning his country to play a far more confrontational role in the conflict, with potential implications for trade, security cooperation, and diplomatic relations with Western powers. Observers note that Putin's role in this development cannot be underestimated. Russia has long maintained a pragmatic but strategic relationship with both Iran and key Arab states, often using such ties to counterbalance U.S. influence in the region. In recent months, Moscow has increasingly sought to portray itself as a defender of multipolarity, resisting what it frames as Western-led domination of global affairs. By hosting and potentially facilitating a convergence between an Arab leader and Iran's war stance, Russia strengthens its own influence while undermining Western diplomatic leverage. This could also tie into Moscow's broader strategy of using Middle East tensions to distract from or gain leverage in its confrontations with the West elsewhere, such as in Ukraine. There are also strong indications that the meeting covered more than just political statements. Sources with knowledge of the discussions claim that both parties examined possible frameworks for joint defense or security cooperation, particularly in countering Israeli military operations and in ensuring the survival of allied governments in the face of Western sanctions or covert destabilization efforts. Energy policy may have also featured prominently, as both Russia and several Arab states hold significant sway over global oil and gas supplies, and Iran's integration into such strategies could further complicate Western economic pressure campaigns. The alignment of energy policy with geopolitical goals is a hallmark of Russian foreign policy, and such coordination could prove a potent tool in shaping the conflict's trajectory. The endorsement also has a psychological dimension for the region's populace. In many Arab societies, Iran's vocal opposition to Israel resonates with certain segments of the public, even if governments are traditionally cautious about Tehran's influence. The Arab leader's public or semi-public show of support for Iran's approach could embolden grassroots movements and armed groups sympathetic to Tehran's cause, potentially increasing unrest in countries that oppose Iran's role in regional affairs. This could, in turn, force some Arab governments into more defensive or repressive stances domestically, heightening political instability. The Arab leader himself may be calculating that aligning with Iran could strengthen his own position domestically, portraying himself as a defender of Palestinian rights and regional sovereignty against perceived Western neo-imperialism. However, this move will almost certainly heighten tensions with Washington, Brussels, and other Western centers of power. U.S. officials have already expressed frustration over some Arab states' reluctance to fully back Western-led ceasefire proposals, and this latest development could be interpreted as a direct challenge to American diplomatic leadership. Economic repercussions could follow, with the possibility of reduced investment flows, slower arms sales, or even targeted sanctions. Depending on the scale of future cooperation between the Arab leaders' government and Tehran. Moreover, given that the Gaza crisis has already drawn in actors from across the globe, the Arab leaders' stance might accelerate the conflict's transformation into a multi-front geopolitical confrontation, pulling in more state and non-state actors with competing agendas. From a strategic standpoint, this development may also alter the calculus of other regional powers, including Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. While some of these states maintain cautious ties with Tehran, they also balance their interests with Western partnerships. The Arab leaders' embrace of Iran's war posture might pressure these countries to clarify their own positions, potentially leading to new diplomatic realignments or rivalries. This could further undermine the already fragile consensus within the Arab League on how to address the Gaza situation, creating a fragmented landscape that Israel could exploit or that external powers like Russia and China could manipulate to their advantage. Internationally, the move could influence debates at the United Nations. Resolutions on Gaza have often been blocked or watered down due to competing interests. A more cohesive bloc of countries backing Iran's perspective could push for stronger language condemning Israel and supporting Palestinian armed resistance, though such efforts would likely face vetoes from Western permanent members of the Security Council. Outside the UN, the Arab leaders' position could also factor into global public opinion, particularly in the Global South, where criticism of Western double standards in foreign policy is already widespread. The Arab leaders' backing of Iran's stance may also have military consequences. Analysts warn that increased coordination between Tehran and sympathetic Arab states could lead to more material support for militant factions in Gaza and beyond, potentially escalating cross-border attacks and prolonging the conflict. Such support could range from financial aid and weapons transfers to intelligence sharing and training. Israel, perceiving a growing regional threat, might respond with preemptive strikes or more aggressive campaigns, which in turn could provoke wider hostilities involving Lebanon's Hezbollah, Syrio-based militias, and even regional maritime confrontations in strategic waterways like the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea. At the same time, domestic dynamics within the Arab leaders' country will shape how this alliance plays out. Public opinion, economic pressures, and security considerations could either reinforce or limit the extent to which he can actively support Tehran's strategy. If the conflict in Gaza intensifies and civilian casualties rise, the leader may face heightened pressure to match rhetoric with action, potentially dragging his nation deeper into a conflict with unpredictable consequences. For Iran, the Arab leader's support offers valuable political cover and an opportunity to project the image of a united Islamic front against Israel and its Western allies, bolstering its own regional legitimacy at a time when it faces economic strain and internal dissent. Would you like me to prepare the *** thumbnail prompt, YouTube title, description, hashtags, and tags, *** for this as well, so it matches your other news expansions?